All discussions and interactions are meant for educational and entertainment purposes only. They're not intended to breach the ATA Code of Conduct, single out any student or educator, or diminish professional integrity in any way. I'm Conrad Drover. Join me as I sit down with inspiring professionals from diverse fields to gain valuable insight from their experiences and knowledge to help me grow as both an educator in the classroom and as a person in all areas of my life. This is Professional Development. Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Jessica O'Connell, a distinguished Canadian long-distance runner and a 2016 Olympian in the 5,000-meter event. Jess represented Canada on 15 national teams across track and field, cross country, and road running. So in this episode, we explore Jess's athletic journey, including her experience at the Rio Olympic Games, and her resilience when it came to handling injuries. We also delved into her transition from athlete to coach, as she now imparts her expertise to the next generation at the University of Calgary. And beyond the track, Jess shares insights into balancing elite competitions with personal well-being, the importance of resilience, and training through the chaos. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just a sports enthusiast, this conversation offers valuable lessons on performance, perseverance, and personal growth. As always, guys, if you do enjoy the episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps the podcast grow. Now, let's dive in. I'm trying to make this as fluid as possible because I love talking shop. Talking track is just the best, and I kind of have to translate it to people when I'm trying to talk because what other sport or community can you go, oh, what are you doing today? Oh, 2-2-4-2-2-3-2,
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Well, that sounds hard.
you know exactly what type of workout that is, what paces they're hitting and stuff like that. So it's awesome to have you on and just talk shop and catch up on what you're doing. It's not every day you get to speak to Olympian, right?
Yeah. You could talk to me any day.
Any day, I guess so. So maybe just give us a little background of your education, how you got into sport, and just sort of the brief what you're doing now, and then we can dig into that later.
Sure. So I grew up in Calgary. I went to Western Canada High School, and I was not an athlete at all. I grew up doing Irish dancing. That was the big thing at the time because I grew up during the river dance era. And I started running to improve my stamina in Irish dancing.
Conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I didn't know what that was, but I was pretty self-motivated. I would bring myself to the gym when I was in junior high and run 5K a couple times a week before I went to school to make my stamina better.
And did it work?
I think so. I guess so. Well, I don't know if it helped my Irish dancing, but it definitely helped my future running career.
Right. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Irish dancing. I know a lot of Ukrainian dancers. So if it's anything like that, it's vigorous. It's
just plyos. You're just jumping up and down for a really long time. So it was the perfect cross training. I had no idea.
How long is a set in Irish dancing?
A dance is 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
So kind of like an 800.
Right. And that's so I think dancing and boxing, and you would know more about this than I do, but this is also a topic of interest to me is in terms of the energy systems between boxing, dancing, and the middle distance running, a lot of it's the same stuff, eh?
Yeah. I'd say dancing, I was gonna say dancing and boxing are more explosive, but maybe not with surges and
the 2-minute rounds, right?
Yes, that's the big piece for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know, I have a phys ed degree, and the whole reason I picked that degree is because I didn't know what I was going to do when I went to university, but also I wanted to become a better athlete. So I love those classes because I can look at it on buffering system. I'm okay, how would you manipulate this variable?
Yeah.
And I would try to get better at it, or what foods to eat and stuff like that. Sometimes I go overboard, but it was something that kept me motivated in my classes to become a better athlete.
Totally. That's why maybe we'll get to this down the timeline, but I did a minor in sports psych because I felt like that was a weakness. And I was I need to know more. And if that can be delivered to me through teachers, great.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So you have a minor in sports psych, but your like major, I guess would say is like exercise
Yeah.
physiology.
Yes.
I think that's probably a good mix of things
Mhm.
because like I don't know about you, but I can get lost in the numbers,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not so much a numbers person, more of a concepts
A
person, I
concept
guess.
person.
Yeah, I need to know why something happens or how
Right.
to apply it, but getting really, really minute on the details I don't need, which is probably a good thing.
Well, it definitely is a good thing. I'm with you there. Like when like my coach is just because I said so, I don't have the I know the buy-in for
Mhm.
the workout, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually it feels harder. Like the rate of perceived exertion feels harder when I
Mhm.
don't know why I'm doing something.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So you represented Canada. You represented Canada 15 times. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was looking through your personal best and it's like jaw dropping at times. Like, so you have, why don't you just explain, let's say 1500 to like, I don't know, have you ever ran a half marathon?
Well, it was the Kelowna Wine half
Right.
marathon, so I
Okay.
don't know if that counts.
Okay. So let's say like 15 to
Mhm.
5K, like
Mhm.
what are your personal bests?
I've run 4:10 in the 15, 15:06 in the 5. Oh, I'm jumping around. 8:46 in the 3 and 10 or 32:22 in the 10K
In
on
the
the run.
10K. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All those are grueling. Um, 1509,
Oh, 6.
1506. That is wild. Um, my heart would explode, I think. Um, so those 15 times you competed,
Mhm,
sort of what age did you start competing at like a high performing level in track?
mhm.
And sort of when did you sort of start your transition into, muggle life, as I call it?
Well, it's been a ride.
Yeah.
Um, I started in Irish dancing, like I mentioned. I didn't start running track. I always ran with my high school team, so thank you for your service. But I didn't start competing with a club and training with a club until I was in grade 11, which
Okay.
is a little bit late for track, maybe, but I'm so
Might be
glad.
a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like everything was new and exciting and fresh and amazing. And also, thank you as a gym teacher. The only reason why I bought into track is because I had awesome gym teachers who, like I said, I wasn't an athlete growing up. Like I was picking dandelions in the soccer field kind
Mm.
of deal, but they made me feel like I fit in and that I belonged, which
Yeah.
like again, so like I cannot tell you how foreign that was to me. So that was fairly life changing.
Like, I feel like there's similarities because the reason I got into running because I was not good at anything else.
It finds you.
Like volleyballing. Like nope. Basketball, like I was decent in middle school because I was had the endurance, but like man, I couldn't dribble or catch or shoot or any of the other skills that you need. So yeah, but you're saying like running sort of finds you,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Sometimes it's a sport of exclusion or like,
Right.
it's the only one left, but
Yeah.
I loved it. So, I found friends that were more similar to me, like, we were wired the same way,
Right.
we hung out all the time, I met kids from outside of just my high school, and it was so, so fun, which was really, really important. I also ended up being quite talented, which I had no idea. So I came 3rd in the 800 and the
Mm.
1500 at my first junior nationals after training for about 8 months, which
Oh
was,
wow.
again, a huge shock. Like, I
Yeah.
did not know that that was in the cards for me, and that really changed things. I was like, "Oh, I'm good at a sport. That's cool." Like, I've got some options now.
Some recognition. Yeah.
Yeah, and some opportunities. Like,
Right.
all of a sudden running in university, like, I'd never thought of that.
Mhm.
Like, continuing with the sport further, never thought of it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you end up getting to the Olympics because no one picked you for the volleyball team or something like
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
what what I wonder sometimes is when like
Mhm,
I don't teach phys ed anymore. I do have a phys ed degree, but I teach like science and
mhm,
but I still work with all these kiddos. And sometimes when you're looking at the sports that they're in compared to like the sports they should be in,
mhm,
I wonder like how many Olympians for like track and
mhm.
field or for a different sport are there that will never come to fruition
Yeah.
because they're in the wrong sport,
Mhm,
right? And like, maybe they enjoy it or something
mhm.
like that. But I always think of like how many of these like hockey kids
Yes.
would have been like amazing 800 meters runners, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. Like I think a lot of that, what you're talking about, the Irish dancing and stuff,
Mhm,
you didn't start till grade 11.
mhm,
You had some sort of like informal like training
mhm,
like in your upbringing, like the Irish dancing, you're running the 5K. You alluded to being like just an active kid, right?
mhm.
I remember like in 5th grade, 6th grade, like I would try to get home fast enough so I could like film my little videos like in light, and I'd make it an effort where I had to run the street light,
Yeah.
and like okay, one street light and then one off, and then one street, and it was just to get home.
Yeah.
But like that was like a raw form of like interval training.
Totally,
Yeah, and, like, I
totally.
feel like that's similar to you, right?
Yeah,
Like, you just were a fit kid.
yeah.
Yeah,
A fit kid who got lucky with the people around me.
right,
So I had a really great club coach. I had great high school phys ed teachers who made me realize that I perhaps had talent that I didn't know I had, but kept perspective very, very real, didn't put pressure on me, really educated me on how things would go up and down.
right. Yeah,
I was not an untouchable rock star, like kept
valleys and
me.
peaks, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Kept perspective in my life, which was, I think, a huge part of why I could keep going for so long.
yeah, and, like, I wanna get into longevity
Mhm.
because, like, we know each other a little bit, and, longevity is something that I'm struggling with
Yeah.
right now, but before I get into that, you're talking about your upbringing,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to, like, tell this to people about, like, Olympians. It's and I'll try to get it from you instead of me. If you had a recipe book, like what the prerequisites of someone becoming Olympian, what stars need to align
Mhm.
in order to become an Olympian?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say, I mean, at some level, talent, but one thing I learned is a lot of people are talented and not everybody has it fall into
Right,
place, which is a bit hard to grapple with. It's like, why not? Why me? Why not you? How did this happen? I guess. So some basic level of talent, balance, and the ability to do something in the long term. Um, Problem solving, so the ability to be resilient and find a way to make things work when things go sideways, which they will, 100%, and you don't really know how they're gonna go sideways, but, like, there's no way that your path is gonna be as smooth as you think it's gonna be, and are you able to then adapt and figure things out?
right.
Um, and I'd say support because
That's a big one.
it's a
Yeah.
huge one. Like, it's a lot of sacrifice and it's a lot of, living kind of an obscure lifestyle, and that's a lot more feasible when there's some, like, social support and financial backing and, things to make that just a little bit easier.
So like socioeconomic status is
Mhm,
probably plays a big role.
mhm,
Um, just like your support systems you were saying. I'm
mhm.
just trying to summarize what you're
Yeah,
saying. So talent, 100%, hard work,
yeah,
right? Because you have to have those two. It's
yeah.
hard to have one
Mhm,
and like get away with it.
mhm,
But then you need like all the supports around you. You need opportunity,
mhm.
everything like that. And I find like when I'm looking at like students train and like compete and like such talented kids, I'm thinking like in order like for this to happen, like stars need to align. Like
Yes.
the interest needs to hit.
Mhm,
They need to want to do it,
mhm,
right? Because there's some people that are super fit that probably don't want to do it,
mhm,
right? They wanted so the interest is there, the talent, the work ethic, but then the supports, the money,
mhm,
um, everything that goes around in that. And I find for an Olympian,
mhm,
like you can't just have two of those. You can't just have
mhm,
three of those. And then when you go to like a medalist,
mhm.
like you everything has to just line up and then luck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I remember being at the trials and it worked out for me, and then I saw people who were very similar situations and they got sick that week,
Roll the
or
dice, right?
they strained their calf, which they had never happened before, and it happened in warm up and stuff like that. It's like, that really sucks, like,
I know.
that's a life-altering one step, you know?
And that was 2016 Rio Olympic trials and I was in Edmonton.
Yes.
I was there.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to the semifinals in the 800.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Good.
That was cool. That was
Yeah.
the fastest I've ever ran since. Yeah.
That's
In the
awesome.
800.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran with against Anthony Romanu.
Nice.
And I realized it was like I was like crushing. I was like, oh my God. And then
Yeah.
like Melissa Bishop was there and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like, but so you must know, because in high school I trained
Mhm.
with Winnipeg Optimist Athletics,
Nice.
and one of my friends still chat with today is Aaron Teschuk. Do
Nice.
you
Yeah.
know Aaron Teschuk?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
trained together a ton before. She's awesome.
Okay, yeah, no, she's hilarious. Like actually when you get to know her, it's
Yes.
oh my God,
Yeah.
like
I really like her wit.
yeah,
She's fun to
she's
be
funny.
around.
And she's still cooking. Like she's
Mhm.
yeah, and like talk about longevity of sport. Like
Mhm.
that's someone else I want to get on this
Yeah.
podcast. But yeah, because I remember she went to the Olympics in Rio, so you guys
Yeah.
must have been like teammates, like
Mhm.
hung out together.
Yeah. And talk about, like, resilience and a long journey. Like, not every year she's had has been a great year, but she's had enough good years to keep justifying the grind and,
Right.
like
Like the world championship when she raced, I think it was like not the last world
Mhm,
championship, but the one before that.
mhm,
Like she got in from a 3K time that she
mhm.
had and she was like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
like I'm going."
Okay.
Like
Here we go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
yeah, like in Rio, what did you compete in the 5K, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and how was that experience?
Oh, it was awesome. It was overwhelming, but at the same time, it felt so familiar. It's like being at an adult summer camp and everything's just big and loud and everybody's watching, which doesn't always happen in track.
Right.
But then when I'm actually on the track, it's just a track. It's still 400 meters. People I've seen for years racing against and all the same coaches and teammates. So it was this like weird dichotomy between like everything is big and loud and different and like everything is just business as usual.
Right. It's like it's just another track meet, like
Yeah.
sometimes, right? Or do you have to like sort of trick yourself into thinking it's just another track meet, or do you use that energy that it's like the Olympics?
It both, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, not I wouldn't have to trick myself. It would just be like, "Wow, what's happening?"
Yeah.
Oh, familiarity. Like, "Oh, good. I get a glimpse of like home." Okay, now back to like
Right.
everything's crazy.
And then like I gotta assume when the race starts,
Mhm.
you're just locked in like any other race,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
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 I've never ran a 5K on the track.
Mhm.
I'm too scared.
It's long.
Yeah. But the 1500 is long enough for me, really.
Yeah.
That's what I did when I took like 3 years off.
Mhm.
Like I ran with the Bisons. I got like a little tattoo.
Nice.
Um, I ran with the Bisons. Then I moved to Alberta, lived in Fort Mac, and took like 3 years off. And
Mhm.
then sort of moved here. I was like, okay, I'm going to do my comeback.
Mhm.
And man, like 3 years off, I was just like a rhino, like running behind like the girls' team. Of like I
Yeah.
ran for UCAC,
Mhm.
and it took me so long. Like I thought I lost it.
Mhm.
Like I thought like this is it. Like I'm like I took too much time off. Like this is I don't have the same body I did before. But then eventually like I got it back.
Mhm.
Like I PB'd. Like it was great,
That's
right?
huge.
Like I think it was like almost 5 seconds in the 1500. Like and
Wow.
I wasn't a 1500 guy that much in university, but I did come back. And I know that you have sort of a coaching business going on.
Mhm.
And when I was looking into it, it's like you can coach like the basic mile to 5K, couch to 5K
Mhm.
sort of stuff. But then you also had a bit about, getting athletes like back in the shape, either from beginners to like
Mhm.
elites.
Mhm.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
So through my career, I had a lot of injuries. The Achilles was my Achilles heel, big time. It ended a lot of my seasons. It kept me out of two world championships, which was very frustrating. um, but I spent a lot of time water running, training on the elliptical, like all the glamorous, the things that probably made me really good, but were very hard and frustrating at the time. So just slogging it out, trying to find a way to stay fit, which I got really good at. So in the year before the Olympics, I was cross training like I can't remember, but like 4 of the 6 weeks prior or something like that, like, very dire straits on running fast enough to make it, and this happened to me all the time. I was always, like, in the pool for 2 months, "Oh, now I need to run a standard to make a world championships, okay," and then I would, and so I was like, "Okay, I think I figured this cross training thing out, like, this seems to be working," and one day when I was in the pool extra tired and extra frustrated. I was like, I've learned too much about cross training. Like I need to write this stuff down and help other people because like it can be really lonely because I think a lot of coaches don't really know how to coach it or you're sort of left on your own or it's like, okay, well, come talk to me when you're healthy again. And which is not what my coach did, but I just see that as a gap. And so I decided to write a bit of a ebook, I guess, a document on everything I learned cross
The
training.
backup plan.
The backup plan, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you want to see it, it's on my website, FFWD coaching, so fastforwardcoaching.com/resources, and
We'll
then you
put it
can just
on the link.
download
Yeah.
it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can just download it. But yeah, so I created this document, and then I got kind of into coaching people through injuries when they intend to make a comeback, because it can be so nice to have structure and so nice to just have someone to tell you what to do. It just offloads the mental workload of deciding and trying to navigate like a lot of uncertainty, and just follow a plan, and that's really, really comforting for a lot of people.
Just get the recipe and cook, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm like in a similar situation to me is like, because like I know how to train. I know how to
Mhm.
plan a macro cycle, a micro cycle. I know how to periodize
Mhm.
and everything like that. But I find when I'm training myself,
Mhm.
A, I get injured almost all the time.
Yeah.
But B, it's like it's exhausting. Like the planning itself is exhausting. So just having, then that's why when I moved here, I went like UCAC, right? And I was like, I know how to do this,
Mhm.
but like I just want someone to tell me what to do,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, you cannot be objective with yourself.
Right. And like sometimes it's your coach telling you no,
Mhm.
telling you slow down,
Mhm.
like hold it, like pulling the leash back a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll like look up, yak up Ingebrigtsen and
Yeah.
be like, oh, double threshold day, like we're gonna do this. And then like 3 weeks later, I'm like limping, right?
Yeah.
So you have this backup plan, and that's from your experience, right? And then like
Yes.
I think that's where people learn the most. It's just experiential learning. And I know now that you're coaching, like you sort of have your own private club, right? Like the like running club. Is that
I'm
like the
coaching
fast forward coaching?
yeah, so it's online. So it's not really a
Okay,
club per
right.
se, but it's more
But
people who are seeking out.
individualized training plans, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Okay, that's cool. And then the more, I guess, in-person coaching you have is you've been coaching the University of Calgary Dinos
Mhm.
for the last 3 years.
3 years,
Yeah.
yeah, and then UCAC in the summer.
When you're dealing with like the young bucks, right? The
Yeah.
20-year-olds and everything like that. Um, at least I found when I was training with people like a decade younger than me, right? You can like sort of like see like their thought process, or you see like where they might be going, or their like the mistakes that might be made like later down the line, right? With your background and like your experiences with injuries, how does that shape your coaching practice in terms of like setting up training, individualizing it, and all around making that longevity for your athletes so they don't putter out at 23?
Oh man, that's a big question. So, I try and make my training plans as safe as possible. Like, I'm a very conservative coach, I'd
Hmm.
say. I think being a little undertrained is so much better than being overcooked.
Right.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. So I try my best to keep everything as individualized and as sensical as possible for an athlete. Injuries happen, but we can reduce the rate and the risk of them as best as we can. But in terms of watching mistakes happen, if it's something that I think is unsafe, like someone is hammering their easy runs, or which adds more load to your body and it's harder to recover, or if they're sneaking in extra runs, or
Sneaking in extra runs.
yeah,
Like the people that aren't track and field athletes
you're like
think
what?
that's insane. Like they're like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Actually, no one's sneaking in extra runs because I run a tight ship, but I've seen a couple people add cross training in
You're
because they
watching their Strava. Yeah.
exactly. They think it's helping like doing extra
Right. Yeah.
cross training, and then I'd question if they're recovering well enough. Then I'd say something for sure.
Mhm.
But sometimes you need to make space for people to make mistakes,
Right.
like safe mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, maybe they're a little bit tired because they decided to do like a university activity that was important to them,
Right.
or
I
they
love university activities.
exactly, yeah, you can fill in the blanks,
Yeah.
but if they're like a fifth year athlete with huge goals, yeah, that's for sure a conversation. If they're a younger athlete who's just kind of learning how to do things, it depends who they are. Maybe that's a conversation as well. Maybe they just need to live that and then decide how to make decisions for themselves after, you know?
Right. Yeah, it kind of like it's a lesson,
Yeah,
right? Um, like I always like tell the kids like you either get it right or you learn something, right?
exactly.
Um, and I know like when I got older, like it's sort of my fifth year of training, the rookies would go on and we'd have sets like typical workout we did was 3 sets of 3 by 300 with like 90 seconds or 2 minutes rest between each and then the set rest. And we'd have like the rookie and he'd be like, I wanna rip it.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, we'll
Yeah.
pass you later if like that's the case, right?
Yeah.
But like sorry, we just get like, yeah, why not? Like, let's see this kid. So he busts out a 38 or
Mhm.
something like that, not even halfway through the workout.
Mhm.
And then we're like, well, he's gonna figure something out like in the next
Exactly.
rep, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that is part of longevity is learning, like, making decisions for yourself that you can stand behind.
Yeah. And then like, yeah, you learn it better when you experience it and someone doesn't tell you it,
Yeah.
right? We've all been there. Especially like my multiple injuries. Sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 times to figure out what to do,
Yeah.
right? So we're talking a lot of track talk, like numbers, 100 values. For and like I'm thinking like let's say like a high school track coach
Mhm.
or a poor sucker that's tucked into coaching track that has no idea
Yeah.
what he's getting into or what they're getting into. Could you explain, like, let's say, like the week of a middle distance runner? So people that are competing, like even a 400, even like it
Mhm.
depends on who you are, 400 to like 3K. Um, I always break my workouts down into like days, right? There's certain days. There's a short interval, long interval. Like, could you break down like Monday to Friday, what a typical training uh calendar week looks like?
Yeah. So if you're a high school athlete who is not super trained and you're just kind of getting into track, like you're doing the local meets and you just want to give it a try, I think 2 or 3 solid interval workout days are a good idea. Um, you'll also have races. Like high school athletes race all the time, and
Mhm.
that's gonna make you fitter as well. So
Yeah, that could be one of those interval
exactly.
days. Yes.
Yeah. So 2 or 3 hard days alternated with some rest or some easier running. If your athletes are really, really not conditioned at all, then they're going to be served by doing literally anything.
Right.
So,
Yeah, like depending where you're starting, like literally any activity gets you fitter.
yeah.
It's when you're super fit, it's hard to get more fit, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one really nice thing about running is that you see gains and improvements really, really quickly,
Hmm.
which is satisfying.
Yeah, it's just really hard to get over that hump. I find there's like
Mhm.
a barrier to entry, like the first couple runs.
Mhm.
It's like, and I got some empathy from
Mhm.
this when I took that longevity
Yeah.
time off, and I came back. I think I was developing like a video game for like 6 months straight, and like on those 3 years, I ran a bit.
Mhm.
Like I trained for like a half, like haphazardly or
Yeah.
whatever, or like, but then the 6 month period, I like didn't get out of my computer
Mhm.
chair, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for a run.
Mhm.
I went for a 15-minute run. I was like wheezing, and I was
Yeah.
like, is this what I've been telling people to do?
Yeah.
Like, like,
What
am
has
I a
happened?
monster?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like I felt so bad because I probably told some poor bastard to like run and do like a 15-minute easy. And I was like, oh, just do it at like 5 minute kilometers
Mhm.
or something like that. He's like, okay.
Mhm.
And then like he's like dead. And I'm like, oh, what was I doing to that person? Because
Yeah.
like I got that empathy because I guess I was
Yes.
fit my whole life. And I didn't realize how hard running is until you stop, right?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, like you understand why people don't like it
Right.
when you step away. But that's something to talk to a lot of athletes about is like buy in for 2 weeks, everything will feel different 2 weeks from now.
Right. And it's that consistency, right?
Mhm.
Showing up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I read are you familiar with, like, Steve Magnus?
Yep.
Okay, I love him.
Mhm.
And he talks about, like, the number one indicator for success for collegiate athletes or
Mhm.
Olympians is not what type of workout they're doing,
Mhm.
not how hard they do it, but just showing up to
Mhm.
practice, right?
Totally. Yeah, and to that point, like, if you are a high school teacher who's just stuck coaching these kids and you have no idea what to do, like, try and keep it fun because, like we already said, it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you're doing something, like, you're gonna get a good part of the way there, And if it's fun, then people keep showing up, and that's the goal,
Okay.
right?
So, like, I think you're saying for a high school
Mhm,
coach, just making that culture, making that
yeah.
community is more important than what you're actually
Mhm.
doing.
I I'd say so, people might argue with that, but especially if you're, like, new to the sport, for sure. That's the only reason why I stayed in is because I met my best friends.
Right.
Like, that was
Yeah.
it for me, that it was fun to go.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think back to my like, because I was in a club for most of high school, but I always tried to get my, like, high school friends to come in, and it but we did get a sense of community, and I was very undertrained when I was in high school because I had a very conservative coach,
Mhm,
and I thank him so much because I PB'd at 29, and
mhm.
that's a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah.
But he told me I think I was, like, 14, and then I was like, "Well, I saw the university guys doing, like, these crazy hard workouts," and I was like, "Why can't we do that? Like, what's going on here?" And he told me that by the time I get to university, I'm gonna have a completely different body,
Mhm.
right? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you can't just copy and paste a training plan
Right.
for everyone. Like, you as you mature, you can handle such different training. Your mind is ready for such different training, and it's completely different. That's the whole, like, long-term athlete development, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause he was basically training me to train, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I wanna get, like, drills, drills, drills,"
Mhm.
man, like, so many drills.
Yeah, which is great. Like,
Yeah.
that's something that
Speed,
yeah,
like strides, acceleration, stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, if you are a high school coach or like coaching in a high school and you're new to track, then if you can watch a couple YouTube videos on drills, that's so valuable. It sets
Mhm.
your athletes up for like just better form and better athleticism, which is
'Cause they're gonna get that neurological, like, development right there,
Mhm.
like, how to use your nervous system to go fast, and then the muscles, the strength, that comes later. That's,
Yeah,
like that's in your
that's
20s.
time.
So why would you, like, stress that your skeletal muscle system so much when you're 13, 14?
Mhm.
Because 'Cause you're not gonna have the same body,
Yeah.
right? That's sort of my take on it.
Totally.
Yeah.
When I was in university, there was a workout that we did only a couple times. Was not a booming success. It was a 10-mile progression run. So every mile we'd get faster by about 10 seconds a mile. So this would take over an hour. And my mind and my body were nowhere near mature enough to be able to handle this workout.
Right.
Some people in that group thrived and they did it. Others, such as myself, did not. I think I finished it once.
Yeah.
And the worst part was it was an out and back workout. So you'd go out for 5 miles, turn around, and come back. And so if you had to or if I didn't have to, if you chose to drop out as I did, you'd have to walk back
Yeah.
like 3, 4 miles, like, that's
The
like
walk of
2
shame.
Hey, essentially,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, he gave a workout that he thought would be beneficial.
Mhm.
For me, it wasn't beneficial. I didn't tough enough. I just felt like I failed.
Mhm.
But for other people, it was beneficial, and it's just making the best decisions on the information you have at the time. Um but also knowing that that's something that was not right for me then, but could have been right 5 years later.
Right. For people that don't know, uh, university in Canada, we have U Sports. It's formerly known as CIS.
Mhm,
It started as CIS when I was in it, and
mhm.
then my last year turned to U Sports. You have experience in that, but you also have experience in the NCAA. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Because you went to school in the States
Mhm.
and Canada. Could you explain sort of how that works?
Yeah, so I did my first year at the University of Calgary, because again, I was a little late to track and I was like, what's happening? And I wanted to keep working with my high school coach because I really trusted him. And he ultimately was my coach through my senior career as well. So basically, whenever I wasn't at West Virginia University where I went, he was coaching me. Um, but after that, I realized that I had never, before I saw myself as an athlete, I never in my future vision of my life did I think I'd stay in Calgary for university.
Right.
I'd always wanted to go away. That was very exciting and fun to me. I wanted to have an adventure and just leave home and just see what that was like. And so I decided to go to West Virginia University, which is an NCAA Div 1 school, kind of the east side of the US. I chose there because the coach is Canadian and there have been a succession of Canadians who've gone there. It's kind of a pipeline,
Oh, that's cool.
including Megan Metcalf, who is from Edmonton. She's probably about 10 years older than me, and she ran in the Beijing Olympics in the
Oh,
5K.
that's cool.
Yeah, which is right like, she was actually my roommate when I first got to West Virginia. She let me live in her house with her husband because I had nowhere to live. Not for that long, but, that was so kind of her to let me stay there, but she actually wasn't there when I arrived because she was at the Beijing Olympics.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, "Okay, well, obviously that's what I wanna do, so that
Yeah.
seems like a logical place to put myself."
That's cool. Like you when you meet people like that, it's almost like you see yourself 10 years down the line and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
Is that
and, like, it definitely doesn't always work out that way,
right?
but that was my logic, and it did,
Yeah.
so that's kinda
But
cool.
it's like something to aspire to, right? Like
Yeah.
you see this person w- where you want to be, right?
Exactly, yes, yeah, and one of the coolest things is how humanizing it is to be around your heroes,
Right.
like, "Wait, they're just a person too?" Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wait, they
They,
they, you know,
they eat
make crack
macaroni just like
jokes?"
everyone
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. "Oh, they have good days and bad days," and, like, yeah, that I thought that was so inspiring.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then so you got your undergrad,
Mhm.
yeah, in West Virginia,
Yeah.
right? And that was exercise physiology.
Yeah.
Your master's is also in exercise physiology, but that's in U of C.
Yes, yes, so when I graduated, I came back to Calgary and did that.
And again, you're a concepts person, or what you were saying. Uh, but how does your knowledge, because it's a knowledge that may be a little more academic than some other coaches who are also like amazing. Like
Mhm.
my university coach has no background in exercise physiology, but he has like the art of coaching. Like he
Yeah.
can make and design a really good workout. But for you, I know the variables that like make your training plan is your experience, the coaches that you had, the workouts you did, and then like your knowledge and lessons that you've learned from injuries. But now you have this academic side as
Mhm.
well. So h- we talked about how your experiences make your coaching.
Mhm.
How do you intertwine now the science of it?
Yeah. I mean, great question. When I say I'm not a numbers person, I mean like the over analytical, like, oh, my GPS watch said this. I actually never used a GPS watch
You
when I
don't
was
run around the
training.
block just to get
Yeah,
that
yeah.
even 10 miles or anything like that.
But data can be very, very
Right.
valuable in training, in tracking progression and obviously race times. Like we're doing track and field. That is a very numerical thing. I get it. Like running is very, very objective. You can get a lot of data that's very concrete and tells you exactly what's happening inside your body, but that doesn't always paint the full picture. Like I think it's a huge, huge asset to be able to keep things in perspective and do things somewhat by feel. It changes everything. I've seen a lot of athletes really, really struggle when they're too bound to numbers. Like they are too analytical.
Weekly mileage.
Yeah,
Thing.
this pace in this workout, like hitting this with no room for perspective, or they treat their training almost like they're a lab rat, and it's not that simple. Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah, because you just can't quantify life stress. You can't quantify energy, like recovery, in the same way. So it often leads to kind of undershooting or overshooting a workout, or not being able to listen to your body cues and like in racing, you can't quantify everything and just go by data because you have to react to so much chaos. And if you don't practice that in training, learning how things feel, learning how to pace harder, slower, like give yourself what you need on a day, then that you're a bit underdeveloped, I'd say.
Mhm.
So it's a big balance between as a coach applying concepts and data, and as an athlete, then taking that information and applying it in a way that serves you because a coach isn't in your body and
Right.
advocating. That's hard. That's like a give and take that takes years to develop properly.
Yeah, it just it gets convoluted because you think you're not doing enough if you're not hitting these numbers, but really it's like your body doesn't see the numbers, right? It
Exactly.
just it's knows that, like stress response,
Yeah.
right? And recovery, where you don't get faster by doing tough workouts. You get faster by recovering from
Mhm.
tough
Yeah.
workouts, right?
And anecdotally, if you're really, really number bound, what I've seen is that you're likely overtraining
Right. Yeah.
or under recovering.
And then, like, sad when you don't hit that number, right? I just felt crappy about myself if I missed my one of my runs because I wasn't feeling good.
Mhm.
And now the little graph on Strava is dipped, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like a linear thing or whatever, 3 up, 1 down, whatever, something like that.
Mhm. And I get it, like, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And so I had to take myself off it. I had to stop again, go back to, like, using my Timex watch to time things instead of GPS because it's addicting.
I know, and that's the beauty of coaches too, right?
Mhm.
Like, they can tell you, like, smack you upside the head and be like,
Yeah,
"No," like
like, "Don't do this."
yeah. So that's cool. Like, UFC's in good hands. That's awesome. Um, this is a question for my brother and my, like, I guess, entire family because they don't understand what I do. Like,
Okay.
in terms of track and field,
Sure.
like, they get it, like, "Oh, I run
Mhm,
half a mile or something like that," and it's like, "One day I'll get up to the marathon," and it's, like,
mhm.
totally different things.
Yeah.
Um, but, my brother I remember my brother Clayton, he was talking about this. He's like, "Why don't you just run an 800 every day
Mhm.
and, like, you'll get better and better at it." Can you explain to him and anyone who else thinks that way why that would not work and what's the importance of, like, why do we do different paced workouts
Mhm.
throughout the week? Why do we do a 10-mile long run
Mhm.
if you're an 800, 1,500-meter runner?
Mhm.
Like, what does that have to do with it? Why can't you just run the same event every day a week,
Mhm.
every day of the week and just get better?
Yeah. I mean, I get the logic, for
Yeah.
sure, but the reason why that doesn't work is because when you're trying to get everything you can out of yourself, there's lots and lots of things that go into that, like capillaries, blood volume, your lactate threshold, your VO2 max. So these are all like little physiological things inside you that are going to dictate what your basically your capacity is. And by doing just like, let's go just do the race or do the distance every single day, you're only training in one way, but there are ways to optimize building more capillaries. There are ways to optimize bumping up your lactate threshold, your VO2 max that are better for one area of fitness and not as good for other areas. So by training in different ways, then you're kind of maximizing gains in one area in a lot of different areas. It's like being a master jack of all trades or a master of one, but then a master of something else the next day, and then a master of something else the
Right.
next day, and that will sum to like why not just write a math test every day? Why would you bother learning concepts?
That actually, that's a really good
Mhm.
point.
The another analogy I thought of is when you're baking. Let's say you're baking bread.
Yeah.
Um, maybe one day you wanna make the best flour you can, and so you, like, deep dive on how to grind your own flour. And then another day you wanna deep dive on, like, making the best yeast you can get, or another day the best I don't know what else is in bread. Like, that's kind of it.
Okay, that's good.
Purifying your water that you're putting into
Raisins
bread.
sometimes, I guess?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
exactly. Like, you're creating better components, which are essential at different points of the race.
Like soup,
Y
maybe.
yes, perhaps that's a
Yes.
better
Okay.
example, but something with
You
more
just had a
ingredients.
lot of soup.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're improving different components, which are essential at different sections of the race, so exactly what you said, um, optimally, and then putting it all together to create a sum that's greater than the parts.
Okay, awesome. I like that. But I do think soup is probably
Yeah.
the better one. Um, okay, so one more training
Mhm.
question, and then we got to move on because I could again I chat for this for hours ever. I could like just talk shop all
Me
day.
too.
Um, my buddy Lucas Clark, he's the host of Mr. Clark After Dark. That's his podcast name. He's like sort of like a inspiration why I started this. He's a school teacher himself, and I went for a couple runs with him in Fort McMurray when I lived there. And he's a bigger guy. Like he's like tall and he's not a runner. He's a football guy.
Mhm.
And we were running and he's training for a marathon and he has all this like he sets up a plan and then like life happens and it putters out and like deals with consistency a bit. How would you approach someone like my friend Lucas who just wants to couch the 5K, couch the half marathon thing? How would you approach scheduling a training plan? And I don't expect this whole training plan set up for a teacher. Like, because teachers, like, they give it their all the time. They're usually exhausted, and it's really hard to make a sustainable plan for them. What is like any tips or like setups that you could do that you would suggest to help a teacher like get into shape for like either an event or just to like be healthy?
Yeah. Um, the first thing I do is make sure that they understand expectation. So if running for a minute is so hard, then understanding like you could just slow down and it will not stay hard forever. So it's kind of a bit of both. You can slow down, make it a little bit easier. You don't need to like smash every interval, but also you're going to improve quickly. So just like literally you just need to do the thing to start. But then from a topic of like flexibility with a really stringent schedule, um, kind of understanding if you're someone who needs routine and it needs to be given to you, like if it's not scheduled on Tuesday and Friday, it's not going to happen, or if that's really suffocating and you need flexibility. And both are fine. It's just how you're wired. But if you need routine, then present routine if you need, but be very realistic with how much time you actually have. A lot of people think they have an hour, they have half an hour.
Right.
Really.
You can get stuff. You can get a good workout in half an hour,
Oh, yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Or if you need flexibility, then have very detailed, like, almost like instructions on, like, it is completely fine to move things a day.
Mm.
Just pick up where you left off, and that's expected. I expect you to do this.
Right. Okay. That's a good to start. And like I think there's type A teachers and type B
Yeah.
teachers. That like I need routine,
Mhm.
right? I work out at like 6:30 in the morning every morning, most mornings anyway. But I just block it off as a timetable for me. Even if I was like too sore, too tired to work out, I'd still get up at that time
Mhm.
and do something. Just keep that block
Yeah.
safe, right? But yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect.
No, no, and you just kind of need to learn, like, how you're wired and then set expectation and structure accordingly.
Okay, so know thyself.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Back to like the Olympics because and I think this goes for world championships and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but I think the Olympics is just what everyone, like, thinks about,
Yeah.
right? That's, like, an experience that a very small percentage of the world will ever experience, and you got to experience that.
Mhm.
Like, that is something like the athlete village, right? I know it's, like, it's all work, all, like, grindstone, but can you share, like, some stories about, like, the fun you had at the Olympics?
Ah, no, that's secret. I'm kidding.
What
Um,
stays in the village? Okay, yeah, okay.
what were some of the crazy things? Honestly, it's such a surreal place because everybody is just so strung out. Like, everyone around you is having, like, the most extreme experience of their entire lives, everyone, and so it's just crazy. A lot of the fun actually happened before and after because, like, I'm so grateful for the Olympics because it's something that the layperson recognizes, and so there was a lot of cool events after. We got to go back to Ottawa and meet, like, Justin Trudeau and have a big party there, and, we got to go to a Stamps game, be in a box, and,
Yeah.
like, fun stuff like that, and, like, a lot of community outreach, like, you got to talk to a lot of kids, which was just
Like a
fun.
celebrity status almost a little bit.
Low key for, like, a
Okay,
month, but
right, yeah.
it was a fun month, but when we were actually there, there's just a lot of going on, like, the whole city is just very engulfed, and our families are there and our friends and stuff. There's this really cool place called Canada House that they set up for friends and family and athletes to hang out, so there's, like, a s'more
Oh,
station,
cool.
and, there are lots of, like, Canadian bands, like the Arkells and stuff just
Oh,
were,
that's
like,
awesome.
hanging out there, and you just hang. There's a fridge that just had, like, Budweiser. No, not Budweiser, sorry, oh my god, like, Canadian beers,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't wait for the Olympics to be on again just because I like they're in LA, right?
Yeah.
And that's time like the summer ones.
It's gonna be
I'm gonna try my best to get down there because
yeah. I'd say, like, being in the village in my first village was, Commonwealth Games, so a couple years before. Senior village, but I did Canada Games and I did Legion Nationals when they have the camp and stuff like that. And I was always really struck by how similar it was. Like
right.
you're with people who are doing the same thing as you. You're away from home. You're there to race, but there's just like a lot going on, and those are such good developmental opportunities.
Yeah.
Like we're so
It
lucky to be
just
having
scaled
them.
up, but it's the same thing, right?
Kind of,
For
and
like
they were
Western
so
Canada's Olympic
fun.
Games, stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that because it
Mm,
and also like to like the kids that are like might be watching this, like it's cool that like the Olympians are real people. Like they're
mhm.
like and it's so funny when like that's what I like about Canadian Olympians is because like Marco Arop, he's in Edmonton,
Yeah.
or you or Aaron, like they're intangible places where I know exist,
Yeah.
right? Like I can get a a grasp of what their life is like,
Mhm.
right? Whereas sometimes you see like these celebrities, like hockey players and stuff like that, like you literally like they're so separated from the normal person
Mhm.
that it's hard to like relate to them.
Yeah.
Whereas like a middle tier U sports middle distance runner can like relate to what you do because they just scale it up.
We're training side by
Yeah,
side.
right, exactly. So, I have to get this question in before we get to the other stuff. I know this is going long, but I'm really excited to talk to you. When you, I guess, made the decision to like retire from competitive running,
Mhm.
right? Particularly like on the track, right?
Mhm.
I know for me is I put a lot of my eggs into that one basket
Mhm.
of identity. During university, I thought those 5 years were gonna last forever until they didn't. And I found it really difficult in terms of like my self-identity. Like I didn't know what my lane was anymore because I was in like outside of the track community. I was known for being that guy.
Mhm.
I was that runner. I was better at it than most people. Like that was like again, that's something I had my whole identity surrounded by. And then when I stopped doing that, I had to figure out, well, what separates me from anyone else? Like what is my identity? And I should have done a better job at transitioning myself
Mhm.
better. And I was running coming from an Olympian and now you have to sort of transition back into normal life or I guess not normal because no one's life is normal, but transitioning outside of being a competitive elite athlete into something more mainstream. How did that in terms of like a personal like mental psychological aspect, how did that affect you and what was your experience with that? And then how did you overcome it if you ever
Yeah.
overcame it,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's been hard, that's a great question. And I think that I was set up extremely well for my transition because I had like I've never just been a runner. I was either in school or I was doing my online coaching
Mm.
business. So I always had something else to fall back on. I really feel for athletes who like put everything in and that was their job. And then they're like, well, great, I have no work experience,
Right?
no tangible skills with structure. Like I by all means was set up well. And as my running kind of tapered down, I put more time and effort into the business. And so like that I was never bored, that's for sure, but even with all that, and as an Olympian, you're set up with all these resources through something called game plan to address this because it's such a big problem, things like career counseling, education, um
Could could you just like go over like that game plan like specifically? Because I've never heard of that and I really want to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's through the Canadian Olympic Committee, and it provides, lots of resources. There are webinars, I think there's access to mental health help, there's, career counseling, opportunities for education. They have a partnership with Queen's, or at least they did, to take some business courses. They offer grants for coaching education, all kinds of things to help you transition out of sport. They have cohorts where you can, like, share your feelings. Um, to set you up for the rest of your life, which is a really nice transition program. So even being set up, even with this, like access to this, which is a huge benefit for someone like me versus someone who cared a lot about university sport, which is still completely valid.
Yeah. It's
Like
big to them, right?
absolutely, and you're kinda just left high and dry, and it's kind of a shock when you're like, "Wait, who am I?" It was still really hard for me because what I realized is while I spent so much time becoming really, really good at one thing, everyone around me had gone on and developed other hobbies and
Right.
interests,
Yes.
and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh crap, I don't know how to ski tour. When did
Yeah.
this happen?" Or rock climb or move on with life, and, it was a bit of a feeling of like, "Wait, what else do I enjoy?" And not feeling like I was left behind, but kind of, like, I didn't have other hobbies and stuff, so that's been a lot of self-exploration, like, what is fun? How do I like to spend my time? What do I like to do otherwise that's not just like sports really nice because you're handed exactly what you need to do and you have a lot of instant gratification. I did my training today, good. I had a
Structure.
good
Yeah.
day, structure. When you're creating your own structure, that takes a lot of time
Right.
to kind of navigate. It's not easy.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one because that was like a real battle.
Mhm.
Like now, right? Like
Yeah.
I was like like being a teacher athlete rather than a student athlete is totally different. And I know I remember the day I realized I was like, I'll never PB in this event again.
Mhm.
Like it was just that feeling,
Yeah.
right? But I'm glad there's resources out there because like it took me a while to like transition. Okay, like how do I put the same effort, mentality, growth mindset into teaching, into audio video, into all my other hobbies? It
Yeah.
took a while.
Yeah, for sure. Like, my relationship with exercise has been very interesting
Yeah.
because when I'm not told to do something, like, then what? And it's kind of evolved where at first it actually took me it was this is gonna sound, like, really backwards, but it was hard for me to create the time to do it as, like, a gift to myself because I enjoy exercising, it's
Right.
fun. That's, like, self-care to me. When I'm not told I have to do it, then I'd have to it took a long time to create the time to get to do it, I guess, like, create a routine around that. It was the first thing to go every time because life just pulls you elsewhere.
Well, yeah, priorities, right? Like, oh, like, there's no expectation of me to do this, but there's an
Mhm.
expectation of me to do this, this,
Yes,
this. So it
exactly.
gets put on the back burner, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think finding time for it is important. And I think, I know that's one thing I think we can take away from this is that just because you're an elite athlete doesn't mean that you don't have the same struggles everyone else
Oh,
does,
yeah, no.
right? Part of this podcast, this show, I think of it like a show, is a pop quiz,
Okay. Oh,
right? There we go.
boy.
Um, Too bad there wasn't a sound, but we'll add the sound later.
Is there, like, a slime thing or
Oh, like the
confetti?
YTV one?
Yeah.
No, I wish, right? We like
Maybe that's next
she
season.
wouldn't allow it.
Okay, fair.
Not in her living room. Okay, so this pop quiz is just designed to either make you feel confident or make you learn something.
Okay.
Those are the two outcomes. It's basically grade 8 science questions that I've given my students throughout the years.
Okay,
All right.
let's do it.
We're not set up for sound effects live. We'll add them out. We'll add them.
Okay.
So just pretend that there's sound effects like ding ding dings and stuff like that. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1. Which of these planets has the shortest day? Is it A, Earth, B, Jupiter, C, Venus, or D, Mars?
Okay, so day is rotation. Um, so which one's spinning the fastest? I'm gonna go with C, Venus.
Final answer?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. It's actually Jupiter, and the reason for that is just because of its mass and how much like the gaseous composition of it. It just makes it spin really quickly.
Huh.
Every 10 hours is a day on Jupiter,
Wow.
and yeah, it's the stormiest planet on in our solar system. So, but yeah, I was trying to pick questions that you obviously wouldn't like have like because exercise fits like usually any grade 8 science, you got it with the bio stuff.
I don't know. Keep humbling me.
Okay, okay. Question 2. What happens during the process of mitosis? Is it A, a cell divides into 2 identical daughter cells? Is it B, a cell turns into a different type of cell? Or C, a cell's nucleus disappears? Or D, a cell changes into a gamete?
Oh man. Okay, so this is biology, which is similar but not the
Okay.
same as exercise physiology.
It's a little more
I
broad.
remember all the diagrams with the pictures
The
and
chromatids?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved this stuff, but I have not thought about it in 15 years. I believe it's A. A cell divides into 2 identical daughter cells, but let's see. Yes.
You are absolutely correct. Awesome. Yes, mitosis is a process by which a cell duplicates its DNA and divides to form 2 identical daughter cells, which is essential for growth, repair, reproduction in multicellular organisms. Yeah. All right, you ready for question 3?
Let's do it.
Question 3. Which of the following is not a part of the cell theory? Is it A, all living things are made of cells? B, cells are the basic unit of life? C, all cells have a nucleus? Or D, all cells come from pre-existing cells?
Whoa.
Which of the following is not a part of the cell theory?
think it's is it D? All cells come from pre-existing cells?
Let's find out. The answer is C.
I was waffling between those two.
So yes, all cells come from pre-existing cells. It's just how life works.
Has
I
to come
guess
from somewhere.
I
Makes
guess
sense.
every cell comes from a pre-existing cell except the first cell,
Yeah.
right? Because that's just organized chemistry. Um, but all cells have a nucleus is incorrect because prokaryotes like bacteria, they just don't have that nucleus
Right.
yet. And they're older than eukaryotic cells, so they're just a little less, evolved.
They're little blobs that are
Yeah, they're
swirling around on the microscope.
not as organized. Um, Pretty interesting stuff if you're a dork like me. All right, ready for question 4?
Yeah.
There's only 5 of these, so don't worry.
Okay, well, I'm not nailing this.
Okay, we're 1 for 3, right?
I think so.
Okay. Question 4. Why does a straw appear bent when placed in a glass of water? A. The straw actually bends in water. B. Light slows down and bends as it enters the water. C. Water magnifies the straw. Or D. The air around the straw bends the light.
Oh, I'm pretty sure water actually bends this. I'm kidding. I think it's
Well,
B. The light slows down and bends as it enters the water.
Let's find out. You are correct.
Thank you.
Ding, ding, ding,
All
ding.
right. There's still a chance of me getting more than 50%.
So basically what I tell my grade 8s is that the more dense a volume is, so like water, the slower light goes through it. So it's a difference between swimming through water and swimming through like mud, right? You'll slow down. And when you slow down, it sort of refracts the light, and that's what we call refraction. Yeah. Next question, final question. So you're 2 for 2 right now. So this is the deal breaker. All right. Question 5. Why do astronauts appear to float inside the International Space Station?
B.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, that sucks. All right. Well, I guess you get that one.
Oh, thank God.
Okay. So, we'll just take this as a learning thing. I forgot to put the question slide, but yes, a lot of people think it's because there's no gravity in space. But the fun fact is that there is gravity in space. It's just everywhere and it's pulling in different directions all the time. And you still are affected by the gravity of Earth. The reason why you feel like you're weightless in the International Space Station, I'm not speaking from experience, is because you're falling. You're constantly falling like really, really fast into the Earth. And so if you ever like had that sensation in an elevator where you're like, oof, like you got your stomach turned up, it's like that forever. So you're just falling, and then it makes you seem weightless. But yes, there is actually gravity.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Interesting thing.
Yeah, I think another takeaway from this is if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
Science knowledge.
Yeah, there you go. Um, oh, that's like totally off topic, but now that you mention it, when you see astronauts come out of the International Space Station, they're so atrophied,
Yeah.
right? And I could just like that is very similar to like, when you stop running for a while, or like I was in a cast once when I was little, and then my calf was like a little teeny baby afterwards. It's
Tell me about it. My calves used to be my claim to fame when I ran,
Yeah.
and they're starting to get smaller.
that I think you have like a decade of detraining before you get to normie status or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that was the quiz, and it leads us to my final question to you. And I usually tell this to teachers, but I want your take on it and you can answer this in any frame you think of. What is something you want people to know about your profession that maybe people look over or don't even think about?
Yeah. I think as an athlete, how much is just consistency and how boring it truly is. Like there are no shortcuts. Like it's just time in and day out, just over and over and over again, which is not glamorous, and so that's not really portrayed in the media. The massive performances or the big stories, those are in the minority. Most of it's just putting in work. And then as a coach, I'd say um how much of it is actually soft skills. So managing emotions and being organized and helping athletes um, to buy in and form like a really productive working relationship versus just like the magic program or like the most motivational speech of all time, Ted Lasso style. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome, but I think it's overselling maybe even the role of a coach when really it's this working relationship between an athlete and a coach.
Well said. That's really nice. I love Ted
Me
Lasso.
too.
He
He's the
might
best.
yes. Yeah. New season like in the
I
works.
saw that.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
I'm excited. All right. Well, thank you, Jess. So just one more shout out to your online coaching if you want.
Yeah, sure. It's called Fast Forward Coaching. So you can find it at www.ffwdcoaching.com. It's
Uh,
just personalized online run coaching.
Right. So perfect for teachers that are trying to get in that groove.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jess. You've professionally developed me a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to Professional Development with me, Mr. Drover. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow educators. You can also connect with me on Instagram or via email to continue the conversation and share your thoughts. Well, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference, both inside and outside the classroom. I'll see you in the next episode.